Is going to be on the new moon in Cancer and the aspects. This is a time of planting our seeds, kind of dreaming of what we want to go on. So yeah, it's a good time to work out what your intentions are and how to work with those. You can look at Cancer as the gateway into the womb, and Capricorn as the passage through to the tomb, really. And aspects of the new moon, the biggest aspect we got is hours before the new moon. We had the Jupiter Cazimi is being rebirthed for the new synodic cycle. And will remain in Cancer for the full year. In Aries, we have got a Saturn and Neptune conjunction. So it's in Aries, so it's bringing fire to and tension, fire and water. There's a good time to do work on holding the polarities and bringing that alchemical balance of fire and water. New moon, it's a wonderful opportunity to tap into your innate sense of nurture and emotional intelligence, and use that to support others who might need this coming year around the themes of children, creativity, pleasure, sexuality. I mean, it sounds beautiful, doesn't it? Okay. So Pisces, fertility, abundance, growth, all of that is going to be very evident. This is the time to get excited about your resources and how they can be used to bring the changes that you need to make to become well resourced and abundant. But also listen to the know of Saturn and seek good advice. Inner work is the other thing around family karmic patterns. This is the moksha house, the spiritual path in inner work. You'll benefit from explorations of family or societal conditioning or habits, and if you make the unconscious conscious, you'll be able to break with long held patterns of behaviour. The new moon will kick off a year of fertility for things you didn't, and maybe perhaps things you didn't. So, if you don't want any unexpected additions, keep your hat on. Hello, Karen Sullivan here. I'm a Hellenistic astrologer, and I am here today to give you the forecast for this week. But the focus is going to be on the new moon in Cancer and the aspects. We'll have a look at the significations of the moon and the significant themes and topics of Cancer through the houses. So the new moon is just coming off the dark moon. So this is a time of planting our seeds, kind of dreaming of what we want to go on. So hopefully throughout this, you will get some insight into the themes and topics as you look at Cancer through the houses, and you will find out, what sort of things you need to be looking at as the phases go through the whole month lunation. Okay, so I would suggest journaling if you want to get in alignment with new moons and her phases. Then journaling is an excellent way, and if you particularly focus on your feelings within those themes and topics for your sun, moon, rising signs, and just jot down if you haven't got a lot of time, and at the end of the month, you'll see you have a nice pattern of things that you can work with during the dark moon, which is the last 3 days of the cycle. It's a time of reflection, a time of setting new intentions as the moon passes on to, it'll be Leo next. So yeah, it's a good time to work out what your intentions are and how to work with those. So the moon, it's the daily reflection of fortune as we flow through the day, morning, noon and night. So waking up, engaging with your daytime routines, to work, home, another location. So our minds and emotions and bodies switching gears according to what we're doing. And that kind of changeability of all those aspects of ourselves as we flow through the day. So whether we encounter mishap or ease during our days, the moon is kind of behind that fortune So the moon signifies, among other things, apart from fortune and the changeability, the moon signifies our bodies, our mothers, women, home, family, the neighborhood, the environment that we through on a daily basis. But she also signifies our ancestry and the people that we consider to be our tribe. She's also about the subconscious, our emotions, our feelings, and memory. She has a lot to do with memory. So this flavors who she is, but in Cancer, okay, and where the moon is flavors, what we get with the cycle. But Cancer is her temple. It's where she's happy. It's the zodiac sign that she rules. And at the beginning of Cancer, which was the 21st, we had the summer solstice. And although the light is still dominant, it's beginning to diminish as the daylight hours become increasingly shorter. So that sun reached the peak in the sky, and yeah, and it's taken shorter arcs. So it's kind of the light and the dark significations there. Um, Cancer in ancient astrology is known as the gateway of the soul spirit into material. So, and Capricorn, opposite Cancer, is that's where the dark is dominant and the light's increasing. And that is known as the gateway of the gods, where the soul ascends and returns back to source. So you can look at Cancer as the gateway into the womb, and Capricorn as the passage through to the tomb, really, and back to source. Um, yeah, so we're dealing with embodiment with Cancer and all those things that come with embodiment. So we're talking about safety, nurture, nourishment, the home, the mother, the womb, embodiment, sensuality, sort of compassionate Mother Earth energies. Um, so Cancer brings people who, embody those archetype of mother and child, so they can be both maternal and childlike, and they get their strong sense of self-esteem through being needed, often possessing deep emotional intelligence and creativity, and lovers of the embodied world, reflective, contemplative. So these are the themes with the moon signification. Then the themes of Cancer, they're the kind of topics that we're covering as we look at this new moon. So, oh, excuse me, aspects of the new moon. The biggest aspect we got is hours before the new moon, we had the Jupiter Cazimi. Okay, so that it's where the sun conjuncts Jupiter, and Jupiter is said to be in his chariot. He's being rebirthed for the new synodic cycle. And will remain in Cancer for the full year. So whatever you're initiating, because it's a cardinal tropical sign, so it's initiating, it's starting, it's beginning. This is going to loom large over the rest of the year. So this is why it's a bit auspicious, this moon. So Jupiter, I'm just going to read something from Rember's planetary archetypes. The archetype impulses towards growth and expansion, optimism and generosity, tolerance and acceptance of others, broadened experience and integration into larger wholes. Tendency towards either inflation, there's always a shadow side with these archetypes, so tendency towards inflation and excess. They talk about Jupiter being expansive, excess of food, expanding waistline. That's the kind of picture of it. But also pride and arrogance, self-righteousness, and a sense of entitlement. So we need to hold in balance, both the positive and the negative of that Jupiterian archetype. So, the other thing about Jupiter being here is he is exalted. So he is in a beautiful position, the best position apart from the position of his home of Pisces and Sagittarius. That's Jupiter's temple. So, he's beginning his death and his rebirth into the new synodic cycle with the sun in Cancer where he's exalted. So he's happy, fertile, abundant, expansive in Cancer, and easily brings his beneficial effects. Uh, to, and this will be mixed in with this new moon and continuous over the year. Okay, so I often think of Jupiter like a large net. That he's not a fishing rod; he's a net, and he catches whole shoals of fish. So whatever that net is aimed at, it will work to include more and more of. So if you're dealing with, joy, which is, jovial Jupiter, it's likely to bring in more and more of that joy, more and more expansiveness of joy. But if it's aimed at excess, excess spending, excess money, excess I'm right, you're wrong, arrogance, or yeah, you get the picture. So it will bring more and more of that. So we need to kind of look at that in terms of where we're putting our intentions and our focus throughout, particularly this new moon. Yeah, and even the good tendencies, the optimism, and the expansiveness, they can have a shadow side to that. So, over optimism may make you promise more than you can deliver, for instance. No, but Jupiter also, he's like the glue that holds our society together, signifying law and the legal system, as well as those in power. So Jupiter's being reborn in a sign of nurture, devotion, the body material. So throughout this year, we may find legal challenges to institutions and governments, rules that are harsh or detrimental to the greater good of the people as a collective, seeded at this new moon. So look out in the world and see what's happening there. I mean, we can certainly see things in action right now that are not for the greater good of the people, and not just the people of your country, but humanity as a whole. So we may see a lot of that challenges to governments and institutions, legal challenges. So going back to the other side of it, the personal side of it, the house that Jupiter is sitting in will be, as I said before, will highlight things and themes and topics that will be indicated through a year-long transit. So Jupiter, he's the great benefic. He tends to bring ease and flow to that part of the birth chart. So that's our Jupiter Cazimi, which sits in the house that the new moon's happening and will remain in that house. Okay. So we need to look at the other aspects to the moon. In Aries, we have got a Saturn and Neptune conjunction. So it's in Aries, so it's bringing fire to and tension, fire and water. So we've got a kind of polarity. Cancer is the water, Aries is the fire. So there's that tension. So there's a good time with Saturn and Jupiter squaring this new moon. Sorry, Saturn and Neptune squaring Jupiter for the whole year and squaring this new moon. There's a good time to do work on, holding the polarities and bringing that alchemical balance of fire and water. Where Jupiter in Cancer is bringing that flow and ease and optimism, Saturn is likely to bring kind of a sense of heaviness and limitation. And a square is a hard aspect, so it's not likely to be, it's of the nature of Mars, so it can be a bit kind of harsh, a bit jarring. But if we align to and hold both the expansional nature of Jupiter and the discipline of Saturn, we'll be enabled to move across thresholds and into, a kind of quiet centeredness. So from that place, the things that we desire can be embodied. So our imaginal seeds that we plant, our spiritual selves, our ideas can be nurtured and brought into the material as concrete and useful offerings to ourselves and our families. So Saturn bringing the strong boundaries and Neptune being the oceanic desire, the boundless, the deep connection to meld into one, with that energy of Jupiter that likes to bring desperate parts into whole things. So those are the dynamics we've got, but between those polarity of expansiveness and limitation constraints, um, we can find thresholds, liminal spaces, and they can become deeply creative places, just like a wetland where the earth meets water, and this wetland is that the water encroaches on the land, and a wetland is bore or a coral reef, anywhere where it's a threshold, a boundary between two things. And here, that is where creativity happens, where biodiversity is born and thrives. Um, and Saturn's detachment, its sense of detachment, will enable us to look at things more objectively and bring wisdom, forgiveness, and practical compassion, which is beneficial for us and all we relate to. Right. Okay. So now we will go through the houses of where the new moon is. So we'll start off with um, the new moon in the first house, which is obviously Cancer. So it's you can do it for your sun, moon, or rising, but I would suggest doing it for your rising sign because that's you, your character, your identity, your body. So new moon in the first house. So the focus during this new moon for those of you who are Cancer will be really personal and subjective. You may feel the need to belong and relate to those you love. That may be a strong urge for you. Feelings of emotional sensitivity towards other and their moods and feelings will probably be felt very deeply by you. Just be aware of that sensitivity and the likelihood of that sensitivity, and whilst objectivity may be out of reach at the time of the new moon, it's a wonderful opportunity to tap into your innate sense of nurture, and emotional intelligence, and use that to support others who might need it, but also for yourself. Have a good old pamper and run yourself a big watery bubble bath, and go and laze in it, go salt yourself from any negative kind of emotions you've got going on. Yeah. Just be really aware of it. And be aware of the possibility of becoming emotionally demanding or others demanding from you. Okay. This might be expanded by Jupiter because of the conjunction to the new moon. And with Saturn and Neptune sitting in your 10th house of career, there could be some pushing and pulling of boundaries in the workplace, bringing setbacks for those projects you've initiated. But that creative tension will support you to sort through feelings of uncertainty, self doubt, and it will bring fertile ground for innovative solutions to where you feel external or internal limitations, that kind of Saturnian energy that's sitting up there in your 10th. But ensure you have the space to reflect with mature detachment rather than purely from frustration. The no of Saturn is not a no to our dreams. Saturn says no. It's the push to build reality. With Cancer, we often want to be safe, protect, the home and family. But Saturn, who rules Capricorn, opposite your sign, says if you want something, if you want safety, if you want protection, go build it. Okay, so that's what I've got for you, Cancer. Okay, so now we will move to the second house. Okay, so this is new moon in the second house is Gemini, sun, moon, rising. So it's this new moon and the Jupiter Cazimi is sitting in your house of money, resources, and values. Okay, it's a fortunate time with the benevolent, expansive Jupiter shining on your money issues. This is the time to get excited about your resources and how they can be used to bring the changes that you need to make to become well resourced and abundant. Okay. With the new moon sitting in Cancer, there may be intuitive insights into how to move in terms of income, expenditure, investments, savings, but be careful. because Jupiter can also bring excess of spending and a big misplaced optimism leading to a deficit. So you need to be balanced. Don't get carried away with your optimism and your spending. Use the time to question your emotional attachment to your money. So bring that in, that feeling sense, and the things that you own. Look at, is there a better way to invest or direct your resources, or are you sticking to what gives you a sense of safety? Neither are wrong, but know where you are with that. Investigate your relationship with material resources. Ask if your investments and spending match with your values and ethics. Are you overspending, or is your generosity depletion? Is your generosity depleting your finances too much? Saturn and Neptune in Aries are sitting in your 11th house, and it's square to this lunation. And there may well be tension between you and a benefactor, or your hopes and dreams. Okay, but the benefactor, which is a theme of the 11th house, he is someone who may have supported you with your finances, resources, all your hopes and dreams. There might be boundaries crossed that are a mismatch to either your values and ethics or to theirs, and there could be a gradual limitation, that's Saturn, on the level of support they're willing to offer, or that you're willing to receive from them. So be creative with that problem solving. Your ruling planet Mercury is co-present with the new moon in Cancer, and that is a whiz when it comes to trade and marketplaces. He may have some messages you can intuitively hear, but also listen to the know of Saturn and seek good advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Okay, so now we go to the new moon in the third house. And one second. And this is Taurus, sun, moon, and rising. So for you, that new moon in the third house, it may be that your communications with others are very subjective and have emotional depth. You may be experiencing deep feelings of care and nurture towards others as you speak. And with Jupiter there having the gift of generous encouragement or compliment. Okay. Venus, the ruler of Taurus, is sitting in her temple and in Taurus. And so the push towards relating authentically, and to have those genuine deep discussions in order to bring balance and harmony of Venus into your relationships may be overwhelming, particularly around the new moon. But don't hold back, because there's important issues that can be solved and put to bed. But you may also feel avoidant of conversations that are superficial and hold little or no meaning or purpose to you. You could be feeling vulnerable and become affected by things that others say as you go about your everyday life. Be aware of that communication, and be aware of the emotional stimuli, and think before reacting so as not to upset. Third house, it's siblings, wider family, neighbours, and those you come in contact in your everyday life, because you're going to see them tomorrow. And they'll have a better impression of you if your communication is conscious rather than knee-jerk reactions, automatic, emotive reactions. And this is particularly important as Saturn and Neptune is sitting in your 12th house, which can relate to the unconscious or conditioned self, that conditioning that we have deep in our psyche, and self-sabotage behaviors. So be the observer of your emotions, be the observer of your thoughts before you kind of just feel something and pop. Okay, bring conscious awareness to conversations that elicit those emotional responses from you. And Jupiter bring you personal growth and healing to things that might otherwise have remained hidden. Okay, in terms of communication, um, remain alert to stepping across other people's boundaries and emotional knee-jerk reactions. And that Jupiter Cazimi has Jupiter. Sorry, Jupiter Cazimi has reset, and this may bring fruitful interactions with neighbours and those in your local community, which will bring rewards throughout the next year. As the benevolent Jupiter travels through your third house. Okay, so that is what I have for you, Taurus. Next is Aries, sun, moon, and rising. And you have this in your fourth house, so it's on your angle. So, it's cardinal. It's, yeah, it could be an important turning point for Aries. Um, because Jupiter's resetting that Cazimi, there's a big reset that's going to play out over this year in your fourth house of home, family, and foundations. And it's square to Saturn and Neptune in your first house. So you're having a big overhaul, identity, character, body, everything to do with you, about you. Okay. So it's a good time to reflect upon your relationship and attitude towards the world around you, particularly in your home, and understand the tension between limitation and growth, which this new moon will bring, and will unfold throughout the year. Jupiter's there and in square to whole sign square to uh, uh, Saturn and Neptune. Inner work to understand the boundaries you've got for yourself, family, and those of the outside world will bring fruitful outcomes for you. Okay, so Saturn currently building foundations in you, and both the limitations and the no of Saturn will push you toward creative solution. So Saturn is seeking to bring you personal wisdom throughout this transit, through your first house, and it will be laying foundations in you until his exit in April 2028, so a year and a bit as yet. So you may find yourself expanding your home with an extension, moving to a larger property, or your family may increase. So take care if you don't want to increase. That could be grandchildren, not just children, or it could be an increase to pets within the home. It could be that. Okay. You may decide to start or move your work life into the house, but the intentions that you set for themes around the fourth house at the new moon, they're going to grow throughout the year with Jupiter's transit. Inner work is the other thing around family karmic patterns. This is the moksha house, the spiritual path house, and releasing those things that limit you, and you'll be blessed by the benevolence of Jupiter throughout the year if you do that in inner work. You'll benefit from explorations of family or societal conditioning or habits, you know, and if you make the unconscious conscious, you'll be able to break with long held patterns of behaviour, but that's hard work. It may come through confrontation within the home, and that will help you to understand that either your words or other people's words or actions are inappropriate. You may have some sorting out of boundaries, that Saturnian boundary thing. So look for that. There may be those sorts of readjustments. Jupiter will lend support to both inner and ancestral work for you. And in time, it might yield some surprising information over that year that changes how you see both yourself and the world around you. So during this year, it will be really beneficial to establish a spiritual or contemplative practice, at this time, mindfulness, whatever, meditation. Okay, so we're going to go to the next, which is Pisces, sun, moon, and rising. And this is the moon in the fifth house. Okay. So Pisces, fertility, abundance, growth, uh, all of that is going to be very evident throughout this coming year around the themes of children, creativity, pleasure, sexuality. I mean, it sounds beautiful, doesn't it? So the fifth house is called the joy of Venus, and it brings, everything that's pleasurable, beautiful, harmonious. Yeah, so with both the new moon and the reset of your ruler, Jupiter, in that fifth house, Lady Luck is smiling on you. So birthing children, creative endeavors, particularly within the home, will be boosted by Jupiter's presence here. The new moon will kick off a year of fertility for things you intend, and maybe perhaps things you didn't. So, if you don't want any unexpected additions, keep your hat on. uh, uh, yeah, precautions if you don't want pregnancy. Okay. Entrepreneurs, fifth house will also have a boost to both their creativity and success, but be careful not to get carried away with over optimism and promise more than you're able to deliver. Um, that's very Jupiterian. Promise the world and then realize you're not suited or able to do that. And with Saturn and Neptune square the new moon in your second house of money and resources, there could be some tensions between those big ideals and big plans with that reality of time, energy, and resources. So use Saturn to plan and build solid foundations for all your endeavors in terms of money and resources, also your values. Okay. So yeah, use it to plan and build those solid foundations, whether it's creation of a child, a business. So there's, imagine and dream big, but maintain balance, particularly with your finances and resources. You can bite off more than you could chew. And that includes your time. Okay. If you're intending to build a spiritual business, the cosmos is right behind you. Okay. So set your intentions for this new moon with big imagination and realistic goals that you can consistently maintain. Use Saturn for the discipline and planning the boundaries. Use Neptune and Jupiter to imagine the ideal, aim for the ideal with the knowledge that you are a finite human being and you've got finite resources of time and energy and usually money unless you're a billionaire. Okay. So yeah, the other bit you've got going on, the emotional depth with lovers can bring an intensity, but again people, watch. Okay, just watch yourself with that, because that emotional intensity and depth can bring obsession or possessiveness. And you can get a tendency to be so overwhelmed with your feelings of love and passion, and that you can overlook those of your lover. So again, it's about balance. It's about holding those polarities, the excess and the limitation. Very creative. Whatever your intentions this new moon, tap into your creativity. And remember that Jupiter will bring fertility, growth, and abundance. But don't forget, he brings excess of self-righteousness, sense of entitlement, spending. Think of the things he can expand, including your waistline. Okay, so new moon in the sixth house, we got Aquarius, sun, moon, and rising. So squaring this new moon for you is your ruler Saturn, and that is sitting in conjunction with Neptune in Aries. So that's your third house. So you might find there are issues with neighbours around literal boundaries with your home or property. So it can bring conflict, but with benevolent Jupiter sitting in your sixth house, you'll have the capacity and the willingness to work with your neighbours to bring meaningful conclusion without legal involvement. But if that process is already at the court, something to do with your environment around you, it doesn't necessarily have to be your home, just your environment and legal battles, the outcome's likely to be favourable. Okay, so your focus during this new moon will be more on the practicalities of life being in the sixth house rather than the emotional considerations. But be very wary of repressing your feelings and find a healthy outlet to express your feelings. Don't push them down, shut them down. Okay, because we all know they return, and sometimes with fireworks. Okay. So it's a good time to turn your attention to home and the personal aspects of your life. So reorganizing your home to become more functional for you and your family would be an excellent use of your time. As we're focusing on a new health regime in the sixth house, whether that be exercise, healthy eating. Jupiter in this house bodes well as well for a focus on your health, but it can also be an expansion of health issues or your weight. So watch for that. Yeah, he loves to increase and expand the waistline. So if you've got naughty things you like eating, just be aware that Jupiter will be going, oh, have some more, have some more. Yeah, so be careful, okay? Work and creative projects from your home will be well supported. So if you've been thinking of a new business from home, it's an ideal time to set it in action, as Jupiter is likely to bring fertile growth throughout the year if you remain focused and work hard. It's not just going to be land on your plate. Sixth house is the house of hard work. And acts of service and charitable work could be the start of something very fruitful for you. Um, and also, being the house of small animals, you might acquire a new pet, or your current pet might produce offspring, fertile Jupiter, small pets. So have your cat or dog done, or your small pet done if you don't want a litter of something or other, because there's fertility on the cards for small animals. However, you might want that. Okay, so new moon in the seventh house, that's Capricorn, sun, moon, and rising. You're going to have your intimate relationships brought into sharp focus, to prepare you for a year of Jupiter, um, which is going to bring in fertility, abundance into all your relational efforts. It's the seventh house, okay? It could be the year of grand gestures and dramatic flair with Jupiter there. So if you're thinking of proposing to a partner or taking the next important step, you can bring a taste of the dramatic to the proposal. Also, new lover might be around the corner. Jupiter bringing nice things. You might find loved ones and partners are much more important to you during this new moon, and that you're understanding their contributions towards your sense of security and feeling supported. But be aware also that if you're in an emotionally negative space, Jupiter's expansive qualities may bring feelings of insecurity or overprotectiveness, and flare-ups could be likely, okay? It expands whatever, positive or negative, okay? Brings abundance to both. So if that happens to you, just try to put space between those feelings and your reaction, the count to 2 or count to 10, if they arise. Look objectively at the situation. With your chart ruler Saturn sitting in the fourth house of home, family, and roots, you'll have the ability to be both disciplined with your emotions and your inner work. So find that time for inner reflection of your emotional connections to your partner and family members. Contemplate the year ahead and how you like those relationships to grow and flourish, because of Jupiter being there, because of that Neptune Saturn dynamic. You can have that ideal, and work towards that. There's nothing wrong with using your imagination and having these beautiful big dreams, hopes, wishes, and ideals, but know that you might not reach that. Okay. Saturn's conjunction to Neptune in your fourth house of home, family, and roots should bring opportunities for becoming centered, acting with integrity if you align with the transit. Issues around boundaries or lack of them within relationships are also likely to come to the forefront. Conflict may come, so be alert to knee-jerk or emotive reactions. So now we go to Sagittarius, sun, moon, and rising. And this new moon and the Jupiter reset in your eighth house. So this might bring an intensity of feelings that you're unused to, okay? It might be reflected in the people and the situations that you feel kind of magnetized and drawn to, that produces that uncharacteristic intensity of emotion. There may also be that emotional intensity surrounding property, inheritance, loans, debts that can cause that fear and anxiety. Again, be aware that expansion can be expansion of debt too, so watch for that. But although those issues might bring strong emotions or conflict, just take heart. With your ruler Jupiter transiting for the year in your eighth house, it won't be meaningless or without reward. Use those moments when you're feeling that fear or that anxiety, especially surrounding issues of other people's money. It could be your partner's money. Use those times to self-reflect and understand where your fear, anxiety, or that strength of emotion is connected, you might uncover some valuable insights for yourself or others during this time, and be able to resolve patterns of behavior, you know. So it will bring a harvest throughout the year. Jupiter will also bode well for any legal matters, particularly related to debt, other people's money, or inheritance. So it may bring up unexpected windfalls from inheritance or debt release, or your partner winning the lottery. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it could bring those windfalls. That's the significations of it. With a new moon and exalted Jupiter in your eighth square and Saturn and Neptune in your fifth, you may find matters surrounding children and money will be resolved favourably, in business deals, or entrepreneurs might benefit from completions of contracts, or a gamble on the stock market, but be sure to take calculated, well thought out risks, as overconfidence or optimism can blur the edges of decision making. That's what I have for you, Sagittarius. So we move on to Scorpio, Sun, Moon, and Rising, and you have the new moon and the Jupiter reset in your ninth house. You might be experiencing restlessness around this time, that need to get away from your everyday routine. You might have urges to travel, to expand your horizons and experience something new. It might be that you're feeling bored with everyday mundane routine of life. Yeah, that kind of eat, sleep, work, repeat. Yeah. And there'll be that tension between that need for material security and an internal call to adventure. Okay, because this is Cancer. You want to be safe, secure in your home, protected. But it's the ninth house, adventure, and it's Jupiter. So if you're unable to physically travel to distant shores, it's a good time to find ways to travel in your mind. Um, topics such as different cultures, philosophy, religions, spiritual pursuits spiritual pursuits may be a vessel to satisfy your need to expand your horizons, as well as inner journeying through shamanic ritual or deep contemplative practice. Yeah. Um, so that pilgrimage is not always through the land. Lovely if you can do it, but it's not always through the land. It can be an inner pilgrimage. And during Jupiter's year-long transit through your ninth house, you might find yourself taking up higher education, joining an ashram, or a spiritual community, or finding a mentor who can support you on that, call to adventure, if you feel called to a hero's journey, so to speak. So with the ruler of your chart, Mars, transiting your 11th house, it's prime time to find that group or community, that's 11th house, that resonates with you, and take action to develop and grow those areas. So squaring both the new moon and Jupiter is Saturn and Neptune in Aries in your sixth house. Both will be transiting there for a long period of time. Saturn at least until April 2028. Neptune, I can't quite remember, but it's longer. So it's a long period of time. And it may bring some tensions and obstacles for your desire for adventure, that Jupiter new moon in the night. However, with that strong desire for growth and expansion, the hard work and the discipline of Saturn in that sixth house may enable you to acquire the results that you're wanting, whilst enriching your soul and bringing depth to whatever outlet you choose to pursue. That's what I have for you, Scorpio. And so, new moon in the 10th house. This is for Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. So, the new moon conjunct Jupiter is transiting your 10th house, which will bring emotion, growth, and fertility to your public face, within your work or activities outside of your private space. That's where it's happening. They're the themes and topics. You may have a tendency to emotionally display public, which could be beneficial, as in the case of, having a heightened sensitivity towards your work colleagues, or or negative connotations if it's a public argument with your mother or your boss. Okay, so it doesn't mean negative or positive. Just be aware. that those emotional displays may erupt and act accordingly. So you don't look a Burke or feel a Burke. And with Jupiter sitting in your 10th house for a full year, the seeds that are sown at this new moon are likely to be fertile, bring a full harvest, which could include promotion at work or an achievement that gains you public recognition. Over this year. And for you, the square to Saturn and Neptune in Aries is your 7th house of relationships. So it bring that focus and tension between your public life, 10th house, and your more intimate relationships, 7th house. So there could be a tension between work and relationship, or boundaries around the amount of time and energy you're willing or unwilling to give in either area. Uh, but there can be long-term gains over the year if these are approached with sensitivity towards yourself, your boss, your partner, whoever's involved in any of these tensions, and compromises are reached which are inclusive and beneficial to all of you, not just one, but all. So this energetic is that of walking, it's a bit like walking a tightrope and focusing on bringing balance to whatever issues may arise. Like Venus, the ruler of your chart, is transiting Taurus, it's in its temple, she's strong and has that strong capacity to bring about the themes around other people's money, um, particularly that of a partner who might receive an inheritance. With Venus moving into a conjunction with Uranus at the last degree of Taurus the following week, there may well be a conclusion to debts or probate legal processes. Venus in a whole sign sextile to the new moon and the Jupiter cazimi can bring harmony and balance to heightened emotions or sensitivity that you might be experiencing in the new moon. So ensure that you're tending to your own boundaries and needs in whatever issues and tensions arrive, rather than neglecting yourself in favour of others for the sake of balance and harmony. So, new moon in the 11th. This is Virgo, sun, moon, and rising. So, all the action of the new moon and the Jupiter cazimi is in your 11th house. And that is called by ancient astrologers the house of good fortune, the joy of Jupiter. And sitting in Cancer is the moon in her temple, along with the sun, Jupiter, and Mercury, the ruler of your first house. So, it's very good omens. The astrology is beautiful omens. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer and it's continuing this year long transit through his house of joy, fortune shining brightly in your favour, Virgo. So 2 days after the new moon, your ruling planet Mercury will enter Leo, which is your 12th house, where his messages might not be so clear. So listen well for the details and communication he'll bring before he departs into the underworld of the 12th house where things can get very hidden. Okay. So during the new moon, you may well be gifted with the ability to imagine and dream big, with Mercury supplying the details for the seeds to be sown. So you'll have the big of Jupiter and the small of Mercury. Okay. So you have that whole caboodle there. You may find in social settings a plethora of willing allies to support you with opportunities, so that you can advance your hopes and your dreams and ambitions and actions in the world. So there may be a long awaited resource appearing for you this year as Jupiter continues that journey through Cancer, bringing people who have power or influence, offering gifts of patronage, offering gifts of patronage or finances and resources. So this may appear through struggles you have with your limitations materially or personally, because Saturn and Neptune are in square to this new moon, and that brings a square to this new moon, bringing a level of tension that requires action to move beyond. Okay, see any obstacle or challenge as opportunities to develop internally and creatively. If your dreams, hopes, and wishes are not matched by your finances, skills, or ability, there's a lot to indicate in the sky that these gaps will be filled with those who are more than willing to support you. So be very open for that this year. Put your intentions down with your new moon, if that's what you're needing. Speak your truth, but speak it with love and empathy. Have those deep conversations with friends and those in your social sphere, and you may attract the right support that is needed right at this time. So that is what I have for you, Virgo. So last but not least is new moon in the 12th house for our Leo sun, moon, and risings. Okay, so the new moon in your 12th house would be a time to truly appreciate the seeds which are being sown in the darkness of the new moon. Okay, imagine them in the soil. Don't worry if you don't know what they are, whether you're growing potatoes or a cactus. Okay, just kind of appreciate that they're growing there. You might experience a time of isolation, either literal or metaphorical. Okay, that's 12th house. But with Jupiter here, you'll find the ability to dig deep and find optimism within any difficulties you're struggling with. So it's a good time to be alone. Isolation is not always a bad thing, okay? Aloneness is not. And it's a good time to face any aspect or shadow within you that's, you may have previously been reluctant to face. You have Saturn and Neptune in Aries, your ninth house, squaring this new moon. So feelings may fluctuate between outpouring, your feelings, and repression. But with discipline, you'll be able to identify those things that have lain hidden and find wisdom and emotional maturity. So you're going to find your treasures hidden in the darkness, okay? Like those beautiful crystals. So it's an excellent time to begin spiritual and mystical practice, the esoteric traditions, whatever floats your boat, or to find a mentor to support you, maybe a Jungian descent to your soul or a vision quest out in the wild, okay? But you're going to be a seeker at the moment because things are going to feel a bit hidden, okay? With that exalted Jupiter remaining in a whole sign square to Saturn and Neptune, as he transits your 12th house. There'll be fertile ground for examining your beliefs, seeking the truth about yourself and others. You might find throughout this year, with this transit, enemies which were once hidden being revealed, okay, being illumined. Be they others, other people or parts of yourself. 12th house is the house of hidden enemies, okay, but Jupiter's the greater benefic, he's benevolent and tends to expand. He may expand your sight and your ability to see if you're doing the work, okay. And that can be about, that enemy can be your own enemy or outside enemies. But be wary of escapism if things get difficult by the use of alcohol, drugs. But then there's the other side, and I'm not suggesting it, but plant medicine into altered states facilitated by shamans would be an opportunity to seek the truth of life. It's but then so would silent retreats, wet lodges, any spiritual experience with the intention of healing and truth seeking. Pilgrimages, long journeys to broaden your experience with spirituality and diverse cultures would also be beneficial at this time for you, as would a regular habit of meditation or contemplation, mindfulness. Be prepared for an abundant harvest from the seeds you sow this new moon. After Jupiter's finished his year-long journey through Cancer, and know that the work you do this year may be hidden, but it will become plain when Jupiter finally moves into your first house next year, and all that expresses through your character and all that you are. So whatever is hidden will be shouted from the rooftops for you abundantly. Okay, that's what I have for you, Leo. And this is all I have for all of you. It's been a very long video. I will see you in the next one. There will be a tarot reading out Friday, Saturday. Okay. Lots of love to you all.